Willow Creek was the kind of town that seemed to exist out of time, a small enclave surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills. The town's charm lay in its quaint Victorian houses and cobblestone streets, but beneath its picturesque surface lurked a history of secrets and tragedies that few dared to speak of. This was a town where the past never truly died, and where the spirits of those who had once lived still lingered, bound by unfinished business. Sarah Mitchell moved to Willow Creek, seeking a fresh start. After the death of her husband, she longed for a place where she could rebuild her life and find peace. She bought an old Victorian house on the outskirts of town, a beautiful but dilapidated structure that had been vacant for years. The locals were friendly but cautious, offering polite smiles but keeping their distance. Sarah chalked it up to small-town wariness of newcomers and threw herself into renovating her new home. The house was a project of love and labor. Sarah spent her days scraping off layers of old wallpaper, sanding down wooden floors, and restoring the intricate moldings that adorned each room. It was during these long hours of work that she first noticed the strange occurrences. It started with small things, objects moved from their places, cold drafts in rooms with no windows open, and the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows lengthened, Sarah was painting the living room when she heard it, a soft, mournful melody drifting through the air. She paused, brush in hand, and listened. The music was ethereal, almost otherworldly, and it seemed to be coming from upstairs, heart-pounding. She climbed the stairs, following the sound to the attic. The attic was a dark and dusty space, filled with old furniture covered in sheets and boxes of forgotten belongings. In the corner, she found an antique gramophone, its needle gently scratching the surface of a record. Sarah was certain she hadn't brought it up here, nor had she ever seen it before. She watched in stunned silence as the record played itself out, the haunting melody filling the room. When it ended, the needle lifted, and the gramophone fell silent once more. Shaken but intrigued, Sarah decided to investigate the history of her new home. She visited the local library and pored over old records and newspapers. It was there she discovered the tragic tale of the house's previous owners, the Callahan family. In the early 1900s, Thomas and Mary Callahan had lived in the house with their two children, Emily and James. Thomas was a successful businessman, and the family was well respected in the community. But their happiness was short-lived. One winter night, a fire broke out in the house, trapping the family inside. The blaze consumed everything, and by the time help arrived, it was too late. The entire Callahan family perished in the flames, and the house was left a charred ruin. It was rebuilt years later, but no one ever stayed for long. Stories of strange noises, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained events drove away anyone who attempted to make it their home. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah enlisted the help of a local historian, Mr. Thompson. He was an elderly man with a wealth of knowledge about the town's history and a deep understanding of the supernatural. Together they explored the house, searching for clues to the Callahan family's fate. In the basement, they discovered a hidden room, sealed off and forgotten. Inside, they found old journals and letters that revealed a dark secret. Thomas Callahan had been involved in shady business dealings, and his enemies had threatened him repeatedly. The night of the fire, Thomas had received a warning. A note slipped under the door, promising retribution, in his desperation to protect his family. Thomas had taken drastic measures. He had hidden them in the basement, hoping they would be safe from harm, but the fire had spread too quickly, and the smoke had suffocated them before the flames could reach them. Sarah realized that the spirits of the Callahan family were trapped in the house, bound by the terror and betrayal they had experienced in their final moments. With Mr. Thompson's guidance, she set out to perform a cleansing ritual to free them. They gathered in the attic, where the gramophone still sat, silent and foreboding. Sarah lit candles and recited the incantations, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her heart. As the ritual progressed, the temperature in the room dropped, and the air grew thick with an oppressive presence. The candles flickered, and shadows danced on the walls. Suddenly, the gramophone sprang to life, playing the mournful melody once more. The room filled with whispers, ghostly voices pleading for release. Sarah continued the ritual, her voice rising above the cacophony. Then, with a final resounding note, the gramophone fell silent, and the room grew still. A soft light filled the attic, and Sarah saw them, the spirits of the Callahan family, their faces peaceful for the first time in over a century. Thomas stepped forward, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "We are free." With that, the spirits faded and the light dimmed. Sarah and Mr. Thompson stood in silence, the weight of the moment settling over them. The haunting was over, and the house was finally at peace. In the weeks that followed, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. She continued her renovations with a lighter heart, knowing that she had helped bring closure to the restless souls that had haunted her home. The townsfolk, sensing the change, welcomed her more warmly, and she began to feel like a true part of the community. Willow Creek still held its mysteries, but Sarah no longer feared them. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger for it. The Haunting of Willow Creek had become a story of redemption and peace, a testament to the enduring power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. And as she sat on her porch, watching the sun set over the hills, Sarah knew that she had finally found her place in the world, a place where the past was honored, the present cherished, and the future held the promise of new beginnings.